So I work for Herman Miller, and as an office furniture company, we invest heavily in research. So I work for the R&D department, and they're really clever people, and they do all the stuff about products. But what I do is about people, and that then feeds back into products. So with that in mind, I thought we'd have a little discussion around the table very, very quickly. You've got 2 minutes to talk to each other, to introduce yourself. But I'd like you to tell each other, where are you when you get ideas? For me, it's walking. I love walking. I know it doesn't look like this svelte body has had too much walking, but that's what I love to do. So where are you when you get ideas? 2 minutes, you're going to hear a really annoying whistle to ask you to stop. So go. You can see me up the hills shepherding the sheep a little bit later. It's my other calling. So fire away. Tell me some of the places where you are when you get ideas. I'm going to pick a table at a time. So we'll start at the back table there.
I enjoy cycling and I have a lot of relaxation doing that.
Okay. One more on that table.
I do a relax on the bus.
On the
bus.
On the bus.
Sewing.
Sewing. Okay, so that's a hobby. We got a hobby in there and a idea. So this table, a couple of swimming.
The trouble is I forget what I thought about.
You need a waterproof notebook.
I've actually got a notebook that I put at the end.
Oh, what a great idea.
Because I always forget it.
Okay, one more from that table.
On the train, I spend an awful lot of time on it.
Great, thank you. This table? Running?
Sleep in bed.
Asleep?
Just before sleep.
Just before sleep.
And in the shower.
And in the shower, yeah, okay.
We go with the idea of events like this where you actually capture something and start adopting it for your...
Yeah, so some kind of workshop, yeah. One more from that table.
I think it's at work.
At work? Took a while to get there. Hear this table?
Interacting with others and you're
Yep.
talking on the subject. Yeah.
One more?
We sit in the shower as well.
Yeah.
We left the boat.
What did nobody say? The desk. And that's a real challenge, isn't it? Now, those ideas that you've come, if they're work related and you're in the shower, you probably don't ring your colleagues and say, I've got an idea. Do you want to come and join me? And if you do, there's counselling for that, okay? But what's interesting is that to develop ideas, we then need to work with other people. And trying to understand the spaces that support that is really important. And there is this balance between alone time and together time. And maybe we've gone a bit too far one way on together time, but there's still this need for alone time. I'm actually going to share 2 pieces of research with you as well, but I actually wanted to go back and quote a piece of work, and I'm going to read this. With certainty, how well we live and function in our office determines the health of people and organisations. The degree to which we have survived in unfavourable circumstances is a tribute to human adaptability. However, the fact that we can adapt does not mean that we do not also pay the penalties for force fits. Now, many of you weren't alive when this book was published. This book was published in 1968 by a guy called Robert Probst, who was Herman Miller's head of research. He also designed Action Office, the first screen-based system. It eventually became the cubicle because accountants got involved and you could squeeze more people in cubicles than you could originally. But this book is phenomenal because it could have been published yesterday. If you would like a copy, give me your business card afterwards. I will post it to you because Adobe Acrobat was not around in 1968 and we've chosen not to put it into modern format. It's still a reprint. But that whole idea that actually that's where we start, it's an amazing piece of work that actually we make do too often. And a lot of workplaces we're very adaptable, but we put up with things. And that is not, to me, what a great workplace is. A great workplace is about designing a space that helps us reach our full potential. So we created this kind of idea to help you think about work, and we call this the engine of prosperity. And prosperity is an odd word because many of you might think of money, and that's pretty important, but I'm going to change that word to happiness, if I may. And that happiness at work is about a balance between the needs of the business, so the corporation, and your individual needs. And it's aligning those two. We are not in the luxury of us going to everyone in the business and saying, what do you want, what do you want, what do you want? Because that will never work. But neither is this about just giving everything that the corporation wants. True happiness comes when you get that balance. Also working alone and working together. The other thing that we have thinking about here is actually that you work for your money, but actually you do a job that you love. That is really important. You all know how much harder you work if you do a job you love. If all you ever work for is money, I have some news for you, you will never have enough. And actually, the incentive of money is short-lived. If I give you all a 10% wage rise and everyone goes away, within 3 to 4 months, the impact has gone. But actually, if you do a job that you love, it's ongoing. The other thing is that actually we get paid and also that the company loves us. And that's an odd word to use. But I'd love to recommend a book to you. It's called Leadership from the Heart by a guy called Mark Crowley. And it's this whole idea that a lot of the time we lead from here and sometimes we need to lead from here, that actually we feel valued. And I'll come on to that a little bit later with this idea of our fundamental human needs. But I wanted to share with you the world of work is changing. And I included these pictures because these are American installations, okay? Because a lot of installations that we see are European, but this is kind of the way that we work, the world of work is changing beyond recognition. And what Herman Miller wants to do is continually try to see what is changing and what are the trends or the shifts that we're seeing. And we did it by measuring not by data, but more by observation. So we started to look and see what are the shifts that are happening in the world of work that you need to prepare for and your facilities, HR and IT teams need to prepare for. So we looked at 120 floor plans and we measured 70 data points. That sounds like a lot of data, but we've narrowed it down to 6 shifts. 6 shifts that you may already see happening. This is not about futuristic stuff. This is starting to happen, and for some of you, you're having to prepare for it. And these are the 6 shifts before I come on to the fundamental human needs. The first is that meeting room settings are changing. It is no longer a long rectangular table with 20 chairs around, and therefore you never have enough rooms to meet. That actually, we are now seeing a variety of group meeting settings that are not always enclosed by walls. That is a change that is happening. And in fact, a lot of the meetings are with less people. I bet you've got not enough small meeting rooms and too many big meeting rooms, because that's the legacy that we've had. And that used to be a lot of the older meeting rooms, it only seemed to be that senior people had meetings, so they're very executive rooms, and others are, this is certainly an area where we make do. And in fact, some of you have had to move outside the building to make do. That isn't that we were promoting agile working, it's just that the spaces weren't being provided. The other thing that's changing actually is that we're moving to more precision fit spaces. And what we mean by that is very adaptable spaces. Beautifully illustrated by how this room has changed from this morning. I wish I could say I'd prepared that, but that whole idea that it's a precision fit, it changes from workshop to collaboration to interaction. And by the way, if you want to not limit what goes on in rooms, don't call them creative rooms or collaboration rooms or interaction rooms. They're just rooms or spaces, and lots of different things can happen. But actually we're seeing much more precision fit and more smaller meetings. Most of our meetings are 3 or 4 people. They're actually quite small, sometimes involving a bit of technology. The other thing that we cannot ignore is this move away from assigned or own desks to shared workstations. And all of you, if it's not on your agenda, there's probably an email somewhere in your inbox that you've got to respond to, that at some point you're going to have to start thinking about this. This is where you work with some real good workplace strategists to understand what that means for your business. Because for some, this is a huge transformation. For many people, they take the opportunity of a move to look at this, but many of you are in long-term leases and you're having to look at this within your own organization. But this is not taking away seats. This is actually giving more seats. They're just no longer owned and they're not always at a desk. And that is changing. And so that's one of the challenges that you have. The other thing that we're constantly seeing is it's no longer privacy as a luxury, just because we've got very senior people, they get privacy. It's about privacy on demand. In other words, when I need privacy, I can have it. And by the way, that's not always acoustic visual privacy. It's just privacy that you leave me to get on with my job. And you'll see some people use headphones or signals to do that. But actually this whole idea that when I need it, I can do it, but at other times I can work in shared spaces. And this is really important, the more that we home from work and work from home. So earlier on I got a message, there's problems with my credit card, I don't know what happened, so I had to ring the bank about it. I probably don't want to do that in the open office, I might want to do that in a private space. Because we're homing from work, doing stuff that might be private. So this is privacy as a luxury, privacy on demand rather than privacy as a luxury. The other trend that we're seeing is that actually circulation now matters. That actually the way you lay out the routes that you get to spaces starts to matter. Interactions on the way, it's all about using the space more effectively. This I liken to kind of a New York versus a Milan. Very organic growth as opposed to very, very structured growth. And this is about the actual circulation gives you desired connection. Now it doesn't mean you can still go straight to your desk if you want. And if you go as far back as the brilliant British Airways project, which is now 20 years old, that whole idea was very much about this. Even when you got to the car park, you couldn't go straight to your desk. You had to go through this connection route. So it's nothing new, but we're now seeing that. And as a part of that, what we're also seeing is that actually central plazas. So no longer a breakout space that's so far away that no one ever goes there. You know, it's not used, and the only person that goes there knows that no one else goes there, so they use it as their private space. And actually what you find is central plazas. These are hubs. This is the kind of heart of your, this is your local pub. This is your local village hall, your local mosque or your local synagogue or your local church where everything kind of happens and connects. And they're the 6 shifts that I thought would be interesting, and If you look at the 6 shifts on Herman Miller, you'll get some more details of that from our magazine. So, another question I'd like to ask you to talk around the table. You get home, you're exhausted, but it's been a good day. Why? What has made your day good? What are the kind of things that makes your day good at work? Don't say the home bell, as someone said in a conference last week. So, okay, so a couple of minutes. What makes a good day good? £20 if you need to be taught to whistle like that later on, okay? For charity. Right, so we're going to start at this table. Some of the things that make a good day good.
Big order.
Big, yes.
Closing out some major issues.
Sorry?
Closing out some major
Yep.
issues.
Ticking that finish box. Next table.
Great feedback from customers, your boss,
Yeah.
colleagues.
Anyone else on that table?
Sense of accomplishment.
Yeah. Gone. Yeah, done it. This table?
We are winning.
Winning.
Winning, yeah.
Sorting the to-do list.
Yeah, the to-do list.
Recognition.
Yep.
Getting a thank you.
Thank you, Peter. That's really good. That's a great answer. Well done. I was recognition and thank you there in one go there. So, over that table?
Completion of the work.
Yep.
And some kind of breakthrough or light bulb moment.
Yep. Yeah, that. Hooray, yeah. Like you get to 11 o'clock and you think, I'm going to go home because it can't get any better than this. you know, you kind of think, this is it. You know, it's like, this is.
Sense of achievement.
Yep.
Doing something new.
New? Yeah. What's interesting, actually, if I ask you the same question after a project meeting, it's often very, very different answers. And what motivates us and what makes a good day is really important. And I do think there's a difference between good busy and bad busy. Have you ever had that? Good busy, you're knackered, you're shattered, you get home, you sit down, but boy, does it feel good. Little G&T. That was knackering, but I've done so much today. And bad busy, you get home, you're knackered, you haven't got a clue what you've done that day. So it's a bottle of, no, it's that whole idea that, and I call that good busy and bad busy. And what we want, and I think a lot of work-life balance is sometimes not about the amount of work that we do, it's the kind of impact of that work that we do. And more, we're trying to understand what motivates us. So we started to call this human dynamics and trying to focus on fundamental human needs. Trying to understand about people. Now there's some fantastic business research and some brilliant business books like the one Deborah, Start With Why, some great ones of those. But we wanted to move away from that and understand research on people, on you, trying to understand you. And my colleagues went back over 80 years. In fact, some of the work they looked at was over 1,000 years. Trying to understand what motivates us. And I'll share with you some of the kind of areas that we looked at. Then, how does that affect us? how do we affect our environment, and how does our environment affect us? So we affect our environment. I've heard some people described as mood hoovers. And there's no one in the room like that at all, of course. But you know what I mean? They walk into a room and you go, oh. That's why flexible working's such a great idea, because you can get up and move. And then you have those others that come into the room, and we've got a colleague called Shazia. She walks in and the room just, Shazia's here. And it's kind of that whole thing, it really does make a difference. Now, the other thing is how environment affects our behavior. So the way this room's set out now is very different to the way that it was this morning. If ever you want a really good debate with anyone about whether space affects our behavior, take them shopping to IKEA. Because IKEA, anyone here from IKEA? Okay, there's nothing bad I'm going to say about them either, but they have understood the human psyche. Anyone that manages to go to IKEA to get the one thing you went for and come out with it, wow, well done you. You go in for 20 glasses because you've got a party coming up and they're cheap enough, they don't mind if they get broken. You walk in and they've put a yellow line on the floor. There is no rules in the UK that you have to follow that. And some of you have spotted the little breakthroughs, but you want to have a walk round anyway. And the kids can get the free pencil and the tape measure. And then on the way round, you see that lamp. That lamp that will complete your life. This is it. Darling, look at that lamp. We've been looking for ages for this one. And as you go round, you see that rug. That rug you never ever knew you needed. And then who knew you needed a picture of some pebbles? And who knew you needed a gadget to core a pineapple? And have you noticed how you get the bag when you get downstairs to carry the things out? And then there's queues. Why would you queue with just one thing? I'm going to go back and get some. It's all about space affects our behavior. And designing workplaces really does that as well. To try to understand that. Then your challenge is how do you be pragmatic about that and apply it? And our thinking is human-centered problem-solving design. So this is the kind of areas that we looked at. Really quite varied from community science, sociology, psychology. Military studies are fascinating to see how you motivate people that potentially got danger ahead. Trying to understand the human psyche. And these are the 6 fundamental needs. I'm going to come back to them again in a moment. But what's interesting is how do you meet those needs via the culture, the HR bit, the technology bit, and your bit, the places. And it is like a 3-legged stool. The other thing I want to say is this research ignores the huge debate there is about generations at work. Because these fundamental needs are the same whether you're 6 or whether you're 60, whether you're in China or whether you're in Chester. Because they are human needs. Now, it's a bit like a graphic equalizer, and some of you will go blank now because you've never seen a graphic equalizer in your life. But this is, for some, it's higher than others. But actually, if you meet these fundamental needs, you meet individual needs. So the questions that we ask is, what motivates the behavior in your workplaces? And the reality is it's different for different people. How is it manifest in your organization? And there's a huge debate about what's more important, culture or place. And if you're interested in some workshops, we're running those in London if you want to join us. And then how does the physical environment meet those needs? How does it affect the behavior of your staff? And space communicates a message. That's the thing I was trying to raise this morning. Your workplace says, we love you, we care for you, we value you. Or, if you don't like it, clear off, someone else can come and join us. I can remember when I first started doing seminars 10 years ago, there was a guy in the room and it's exactly what he said. Well, if they don't like it, they can go somewhere else. Have a guess what? He wasn't going to be investing heavily in workplace. And that's easy to say in good times. That's not in recession. That's not so good in good times. And then what does it mean for the way, and this is important here, that actually the practices, so the culture part of your business, as well as the physical part. So I'm just going to quickly share these 6. And there's a brilliant article by the guy that wrote that book, Leadership from the Heart. He interviewed me about this book. And if you Google Mark Crowley and Mark Catchlove, you'll see a really good summary of that. So the first one, and you'll see this will link to some of the things that we discussed. Every one of us wants to go home with a sense of achievement, a sense like we've done something. Now, this is a huge challenge when you retire, when you get unemployed, when you feel disenfranchised, when you're crap at school, when you're not very well. So this is the same throughout our life. This whole idea that so is your workplace supporting achievement? The culture, the technology, and the places, does it support a sense of achievement? This is that whole idea. I go home, I might be shattered, but I feel good. I feel like I've made a difference today. By the way, you remember the balance between the passion and the profit that I talked about? You have to go very careful you don't capitalize on the passion where people love their job so much you pay them badly. That's what happens to people that feel their professions a vocation. It happened in our caring professions. They love the job so much, they won't notice that we're paying them bad. Well, have a guess what? They do. And that is having to change. It's the huge challenge we have with home care at the moment. It's a huge impact that actually they might love the job as much as they want, but they've got to be able to eat. Very fundamental. Achievement is a really important one. Another one is a sense of security. This is twofold. This is physical security. So anyone that wins the Aeron chair, great, that's ergonomics, that's really important. But I'm talking more about, as well here, social security. In other words, that I feel safe within the business. That actually, if Peter's my boss, I can question what he's telling me. That it's okay for me to say, but why are you saying that, Peter? That whole idea that if whatever sexual orientation, whatever religion, whatever creed, whatever it is, that I feel safe. This is about inclusiveness and diversity as well as physical security. Really important. Another one is a sense of purpose. Very difficult to get this without this. This whole idea of what is it? And I bet your wonderful intranets have captured the company mission statement so beautifully. It took 3 weeks probably for some company to come up with your mission statement. Do you know what? Sometimes that hits people here. It doesn't hit people here. What is someone's personal purpose? That whole idea of going to work to make a difference. And again, I say if you have to think about people as individuals and how you motivate it. That's why sometimes personality studies are a great idea. You know, the personality profiling. To find out what someone's purpose might be. We all want to make a difference. Status is an interesting one. This is not about hierarchy, by the way, although in some cultures this is still important. This is very much about recognition, that actually people get recognized for the tasks they do. And again, this is a bit like privacy on demand rather than privacy as a luxury. That actually you get the status because of your achievements, not because of your title. And that actually people get recognized for what they've done. So at Herman Miller, one of my colleagues retired last year, a guy called Peter Lloyd, been with Herman Miller for 36 years. In his 36 years, he never managed one person in Herman Miller. But I tell you, he's the most important leader that Herman Miller has ever had outside of the US. Because of this whole idea, his status was peer recognized status. He was a mentor. People, hold him in high regard. And that whole idea that status is more than just your job title. And a lot of us still get status from work, from doing work, from doing stuff. Again, one of the challenges when you retire. Another one is autonomy, a sense of being in control. Autonomy is not anarchy. Autonomy still has guidelines. So often in the FM world, when you hear autonomy, it makes you a bit nervous because that means people can move stuff, change stuff, and the rules are slightly different. But this is autonomy within guidelines. There is an etiquette. There is a kind of guidelines around it. But autonomy is a sense of freedom, and every one of us wants that. This is definitely one that for some people is really high, and for some people their autonomy is to be told what to do. There are some brilliant people, tell them what to do, they do it brilliantly. I remember I had once had a telemarketing girl, she said to me, "Mark, I'm not paid to think." But if I gave her 20 calls to make or whatever, she would do them brilliantly. It's just a task. You know, I don't want to go out and decide what our strategy is. So that autonomy, your autonomy can be to be told what to do. And the final one is a sense of belonging. And this comes back to that balance between passion and profit. That actually, more and more, we are creating workplaces where people have a sense of community. Places where people spend more time often than with their family. The other challenge is this. The world of work is becoming global. In your workplaces, you will have people who are hundreds or thousands of miles away from their business. Therefore, work is their life. It's their family. That's why they're not interested in working from home, because there's no one there. And it's like, you know, in fact, Will's my young colleague. You know, why would Will come up from Bristol and live in London and then work from home? Why would you do that? He wants to be in the buzz of it, in the activity of it, and to get a sense of connectedness and a sense of belonging. And this is this whole idea of social capital, we call this. Actually, if you feel you're connected to a business, have a guess what? You'll work harder. Now, that you can put loads of metrics, but some of this is common sense. And by the way, if you want to be a good parent, this is all you do. If you want to be a good boss, this is how you manage. If you want to start a criminal gang, this is what you do, because that's what disenfranchised kids look for. I worked in the East End for many years with underprivileged children. If good society doesn't give them this, they'll find it in bad society. Because it's fundamental human needs that we're bringing in to the workplace. So I just wanted to leave this with you, this whole idea that it is about a balance between the needs of the individual and the corporation, and passion and profit. Thanks very much for your time.